I had money, I had fulfillment, but I had no time. I wanted to have it all. I wanted to create wealth. I wanted to stop being so impressive with my words and my dress and the way that I showed up. And I wanted to be more impactful in life. And in order to do that, I had to change my mindset again. I had to reprogram my identity. I had to address those same limiting beliefs. And I had to ask myself, what would life look like if I were to have it all this time? I'm Microwave Blunt, Executive Mindset Coach, and welcome to Wealthy Minded, the podcast for elite men who are looking for success beyond the money. Welcome to the second episode of Wealthy Minded. So in the first episode, we discussed was my foundations, the foundations of success, of financial success, ambition, really trying to go for it, really having that fervor to be the best of unlimited education and mastery and discipline and moving ahead of everyone in competition. So I created my success, my financial success up until that point on quicksand. It wasn't a solid foundation of really feeling fulfilled, really feeling like I were worthy, and really feeling like I was the person that I fully needed to be in order to succeed in the way that I wanted to succeed. So the takeaway from the last episode were actually two-pronged. The first takeaway was that you can always manifest your desired reality as long as you stay connected to the vision long enough for it to manifest. I was able to do that with my mother because she created the environment for me to feel safe in connecting to that vision, connecting to wealth, connecting to abundance and prosperity, regardless of the fact that we didn't have any money. The second lesson was you have to meet yourself where you are rather than where you think you need to be. If you were going to create the life that you desire and the life that you ultimately want beyond financial success, I know for a lot of us, high value men, we're always thinking of the next step and we're always thinking about the person that we want to be rather than the person that we are right now. If we're always creating from a place of where we want to be, then we're always creating from a place of lack. If you're creating from the place of where you are right now, then you're creating from a place of I already am and I already have. Those are two different scenarios and those are two different outcomes. Now, this might sound counterintuitive to a lot of people because where you want to be gives you the motivation to actually get there. I'm not saying don't have goals, and I'm not saying don't have a vision. I'm saying where you want to create, where your energy comes from. And again, I built my success off of quicksand because my energy came from the person who I never felt that I was, and I was always trying to get there. So not feeling like you are enough. This might be something that you're dealing with, either in your job, in relationships, with family, in business, in any part of your life. You might have felt like you weren't worthy. You might have felt imposter syndrome. You might have felt like you were enough. And if that is you, I'm going to encourage you to go back to the previous episode to really unpack some of that and hear my story and hear how that can help you to overcome that and meet you where you are rather than where you want to be. In this episode, in episode 2, what we're going to talk about is life beyond the limiting beliefs. And what you're able to create from that is having it all. Having the family, having the connection, having your time back, having the abundance, having your soul fulfilled, having the mental clarity, having your mental health, your physical health, and your emotional health. It's a reality where you don't have to win in one area of life and sacrifice in every single other area of life just so that you can call yourself successful. It's an area where you can be successful in every category of life. And that's what I want to explain to you. And that's what I want to show you in this episode. What happens after you have the awareness of your limiting belief? Mine was, I'm not enough. After you go through the anxiety, after you have the panic attacks, after you start showing all of the psychological disorders of overwhelm and depression, and in my case, when I started thinking about suicide, when you finally get to that point where you become aware that these limiting beliefs and these emotions are what's causing all of the problems that are starting to unravel and happen into your life, What happens after that? So I left the hospital and immediately I chose the path that I am enough. I chose the path that I wanted to live a purpose filled life rather than a life that was validated externally by my classmates, by my family, and by the society around me. I didn't want life to dictate what my next steps were anymore. I wanted to create a life on my own. This is where I started to transition into the notion of being wealthy minded. Wealthy minded being, how do I create value for other people other than myself? And in return for that value, how do I get back more of my time? How do I get back more fulfillment? How do I get back more love, connection, spiritual awakening? How do I get back more mental health and physical health and emotional health? How do I create reality on my own terms? But how do I maximize and reach my full human potential? And in order for me to really do that, I needed to transition out of corporate America. So I immediately quit. I didn't have a backup plan. I didn't have hundreds of thousands of savings. I didn't know I was going to quit. But when my director asked me, what do you want? What do you want to do? Essentially, why are you still here, Michael, if you're not happy? And my response back was, I wanted to be happy. I knew my next steps were going to be in the unknown. So I quit and I immediately went home. And over those next 2 weeks, I cried. I didn't create a business plan. I didn't have this awesome guide and coach that was going to help me get to my next step. I cried. I cried because I was purging and I was releasing so much trauma, so much anxiety, so much of the unworthiness that I was holding on to for so long. I was releasing. And that's when I started meditating. Someone told me if I put a rose quartz crystal over my heart and I meditate for 2 weeks, that I will feel whole again. Remember, during this time, I was going through a breakup. I was also getting pushed out of my job. And then I was also going through all these physical, medical traumas in my life. And I didn't know where they were coming from. So all of these things were happening at once. I had just moved to New York prior to that a year ago. And I'm like, I just got here. How am I going to survive in a city that is going to eat me alive if I can't provide for myself financially? And during that time, I had epiphanies. One, this is the first time ever in my life that I actually slowed down enough in order to really feel what I wanted to feel, in order to think what I wanted to think, in order to be who I wanted to be. This is the first time in my life that I actually meditated. And this is the first time in my life that I was actually gaining clarity into what could my life possibly be after financial success. That's when I came up with the idea that I wanted to save corporate America. And the best way for me to save corporate America, which for me was, how do I give the resources back to the employees, to these corporations that I didn't have for myself? So I basically created a business as a solution for my own inner wounds. And that was a corporate wellness business called the See-Through Method. And when I went back to corporate, I was providing wellness solutions such as meditation, massage therapy, yoga, mindfulness practices in order to increase engagement, in order to, reduce turnover, and overall, in order to increase employee morale so that we can have employee athletes that were happy to come to work, that were happy to be there. And it went well. I was able to create a brand. I was able to create a community, a following. I went to conferences and workshops. I was in Yahoo. I was in New York University. I was at a number of different tech companies around New York City. I was in a lot of the public schools and private schools and charter schools, helping kids understand yoga and to present meditation within their classrooms within Brooklyn and the Bronx and Queens. I was really living out my purpose and I really had a lot of momentum behind what I wanted to do. Everything was great. Everything was perfect, except I wasn't making any money. I was doing the thing that I wanted to do, but the thing that was that I wanted to do didn't allow me to financially create the lifestyle that I wanted to create. That was the problem. I had purpose, but I was broke and I was barely able to pay my rent in New York. So I had went from making multiple six figures to barely cracking $30,000 a year. I was now put back into survival mode. So I was wrestling with the belief that you could have it all. And I was able to achieve all of the things that allowed me to have it all. But now I sacrificed money. So before I was sacrificing my fulfillment in order to have money. Now I was sacrificing money in order to have my fulfillment. So again, I was back in this quandary. How do I fix this? Over the years of being in that survival mode, I eventually got to the point where I wanted to manifest a different reality. So while I was stuck in survival mode with the C3 method, really having my brand, understanding my purpose, but I wasn't seeing the financial results that I wanted to see. I was constantly studying and I was constantly integrating with new information around consciousness, your subconscious, reprogramming. This interests me because my background was computer science. And in computer science, I had to break down things and I had to synthesize them into new, exciting, and easy ways that were programmable for people to use. Well, this was no different with the human mind and with the human body. How can I break down where you are and how can we rebuild that into where you want to be? How can we break down the complications and the limitations that you have in your mind? And how can we reprogram that so that you are operating at full human potential? Studying this, I ran across people like Dr. Joe Dispenza. I ran across people like Vishen Lakhiani, Tony Robbins. I ran across people like Myron Golden, Greg Braden. And these people all had a central theme. They were giving me the belief that they have in themselves, and they were giving that to me and to everybody else who followed them. They believed so much in what they were doing, and they were telling other people that you can do the same thing. These people believed so much in what they were doing because they spent so much time reprogramming their subconscious. And up until this point, I had never really understood the subconscious. I had only been dealing with the conscious mind. And so I started studying more of the subconscious. I actually took a course. I actually started meeting with people, reading books. I even did a reprogramming session where a person was able to tap into my subconscious. I became a master. I became a disciple. I meditated on the subconscious and I became an expert in that field. And again, there was a guide, there was a woman, there was a friend that gave me advice. And this friend, this mentor of mine, really pushed me to coach, to do executive coaching. And I said, I never coached a day in my life. I don't know anything about coaching. Why would I do coaching? She said, because you give some of the best advice in the world and people love hearing you speak. And I'm like, well, thank you. But who has heard me speak beside you and a couple of other people? She was like, that's all you need. So I sat with that and I said, if I want to create the life that I need and I want to create on my own terms, and then I'm going to have to do things that are going to make me feel wildly uncomfortable. And I'm going to have to put myself in positions that I've never put myself in before. I opened myself to coaching. And I had a couple of people who came up to me and asked me how much I charged. That was interesting because I had spent the last 3 years marketing myself, selling, pushing. Please take my business into your corporation. Please sign this contract. Please send me this invoice. And all I had to do was just mention the fact that I wanted to be a coach, and people already started signing up. Well, that's part of the manifestation process to let you know that this is the right path for you. But I didn't know that at the time, but I tried it. And when I did, those people started telling other people about who I was and what I provided. I created a school called Energy Mastery School. In energy mastery school, you were able to retransform your energy and your consciousness in order to create the reality that you want. Not too different from what I'm doing right now. But it really started with energy, and it started more with a spiritual context of consciousness. And immediately when I transitioned into executive coaching, I got a lot of clients, and I got a lot of high paying clients. Now, mind you, coaching was easy. Getting these things was easy, but I still have those doubts. With high value men, we're used to working hard to get what you actually want to get and having this feeling of earning your way to the top. With successful men, and especially successful men that have had the limiting belief that I am not enough. So even though I had addressed the issue of I am not enough, even though I had reprogrammed I am not enough, every level has a new devil. Now I'm at level 2 with the same limiting belief, but it's coming at me in a different way. And now it's coming at me in a different way where I feel like I need to earn it. This is too easy. Maybe it was a mistake. And because I had those limiting beliefs that this is too good to be true, because I hadn't fully reprogrammed my limiting belief of not feeling like I was enough, the entire time I thought about how can I get more clients, and more clients. So it became a system of quantity over quality. And I reached the same level of burnout and overwhelm that I did when I was in corporate America. So I was repeating the same patterns, and I was repeating the same process, just in a different environment. So this time I was able to generate a lot of money. This is when I was able to now get back into six figures, into high six figures, but now I had no time. So I went from having money, but no time and fulfillment, to having time and fulfillment to no money. And now I had money, but no time. God, how did I get back into this situation again? I'm constantly making sacrifices for the things that I need, hoping that I would get the lifestyle that I want. I had money, I had fulfillment, but I had no time to actually enjoy it. So this is when I had to ask myself, what would life look like with more money, more time, more fulfillment, and a community? This is the third mindset shift that I went through. I wanted to have it all. I wanted to create wealth. I wanted to stop being so impressive with my words and my dress and the way that I showed up, and I wanted to be more impactful in life. I wanted to invest more time in my clients rather than generating a lot of clients, hoping that the world would validate me externally. And in order to do that, I had to change my mindset again. I had to reprogram my identity. I had to address those same limiting beliefs. And I had to ask myself, what would life look like if I were to have it all this time? And that's where my next manifestation began. I realized that my limiting belief of not being enough was never going to fully leave. It was only going to be more managed, and it was going to be addressed at higher and different levels. And I found peace in that, knowing that I was never going to get it right. So if this is you and you can identify with, again, not feeling enough, and this might show up in a lot of different ways in your life. You might feel like I'm worthy. You might feel like I'm doing enough, but these limiting beliefs have a very sneaky way of showing themselves and presenting themselves in your life. So this could show up as imposter syndrome. This can show up as I can be doing more right now. I can be offering more. I can be giving more of my time. Or this can show up as I haven't done enough in my life. And in all of these different scenarios, again, what I would recommend to you, if this is you, this is something that you've been thinking or going through, or if you've had any type of feelings or notions towards this, is to meet yourself where you are rather than where you want to be. You can't create a life of abundance from a mentality of lack. I would highly encourage you and I would highly challenge you to switch from the mindset of where you want to be and start producing and creating and feeling and generating the mentality and the emotions and embodying the identity of where you currently are. You might surprise yourself and realize that I've done so much up until this point. I've done exactly what I wanted to do. I am enough. I've done enough. And from that identity, you can create and have anything that you want. You can have it all. And this is something that I constantly have to remind myself. I've showed you the different iterations of my life of me not feeling enough. It's never completely gone away. I've just dealt with it with different faces, different outfits, different environments, different realities. And I've gotten better at mastering it. Something that took me 20, 33 years of my life to finally become aware of and master and to get ahead of. The next time, it only took me a few years. The next time after that, it only took me a few months. And now when I identify it, I'm able to reprogram it and switch back into the mentality instantly. But this takes practice. And with practice, you don't get perfection, you get progress. And that progress led me to, again, slowing down my life, meeting myself where I was and asking the question, what matters most to me? What matters most to me in this point in my life is my time. So if I can provide more value to my clients, I should in turn be able to get back more time and more money. And that's exactly what I did. When I was able to reconnect to myself and invest more in my value, I was able to reduce the amount of clients that I had and increase my prices because I felt like I deserved that and I was enough. I focused on creating more value. And in return, I went from coaching 20 and 30 people per year to now only coach between 2 and 4 people per year. And I completely 10x the amount of money that I was making because I went from less clients and then I charged 10x more. I went from barely making $30,000 a year to cracking $100,000 a year to high six figures. And I'm on my way to be a multimillionaire in a matter of a few years. I went from thinking that I had to have a lot of creative ideas and a lot of different businesses to only focusing on one. I went from thinking that I had to be at every event, every party, travel all around the world to really focusing on a few friends, a few special events, and really focusing on myself and my time and my family, to really feeling fulfilled and really feeling in alignment with my purpose and what I wanted to create for the world. This to me was true abundance because I did this without sacrificing my time. I did this without sacrificing my peace. And I did this without sacrificing fulfillment. Is it perfect? No. Is it a work in progress? Obviously. Do I always get it right? Hell no. But this is where my vision is. And where my vision is, that's what I'm going to create. When I was able to invest in providing more value, I was able to reconnect with myself and really start loving myself unconditionally. This allowed me to attract unconditional love in a life partnership with the woman who became my wife. When I was able to reinvest into myself of creating more value, I was able to become more emotionally connected to my wife, which allowed us to create a son. These are the things that you can do by shifting into a mindset and an identity of being wealthy minded. This is how you can have it all. But these are a lot of the steps that I took to reprogram and to shift my mindset in order to get it. I have the time to do all these things. I have the physical health. I have the love. I have the connection because I took the time to reprioritize in providing value for others. And this is what I want for you. I want you to realize that you can have it all. If you felt like you've sacrificed so much in your life in order to be happy or fulfilled, if you felt like success is a sacrifice, if you feel like you can't have it all because you're juggling with the kids and you're juggling with your family, but you also have to keep up with the financials and you also have to be the breadwinner and the financial provider. If you feel like having heaven on earth and really creating reality on your own terms is not attainable, then this episode is for you. This is the whole purpose of Wealthy Minded. Switching to the identity, switching to the mindset that all these things are achievable, that success doesn't have to come with sacrifice. Yes, there are things that you might have to reprioritize. Yes, there are things that you have to say no to in order to get the things that you want to say yes to. But just like you go to a restaurant and you order off of a menu, if you order breakfast, lunch, appetizer, and dinner at the same time, you can't eat everything at the same time. But if you create the space to eat that over the course of a day, then you'll have a full, complete meal. I want to show you how if you switch to a wealthy mindset, that you can have a complete meal for your entire life. So in creating this lifestyle and really stepping into the identity of having it all, you have to ask yourself, what really matters to me? And when I ask myself what really matters to me, beyond financial success, beyond feeling validated, beyond the fact that I wanted to feel like I was enough, beyond people really looking at me and admiring me for being impressive, what really mattered to me outside of all the superficial things that I had created success on before? And I realized that creating value for people was a thing that really drove me, expanded me, and made me feel abundant. Creating value for people was the currency that I needed and that you need as well in order to get back more of your time, more family, more connection, more love, more of your physical health. Creating value for people other than yourself is what's going to be that huge return of investment that is going to allow you to have it all. And I want that for you. I want you to be on this journey and feel spiritually connected, mentally connected, and not feeling like you have to sacrifice your physical health. Because what this looks like for me today is me being at peak optimal health, me being more mentally sound and connected than I've ever been before, me living a lifestyle where I'm continuously reprogramming my mindset so that I can become the most emotionally regulated person that I've ever been in my life. What this means to me today is having a community, not only followers, but a community that is loyal and that is looking for the tools in order to become the best version of themselves. And that's the whole concept of being wealthy minded. If you want to learn more about this, stay tuned, subscribe. I'm excited to share more with you. I'll talk to you soon.